Alright, let's do a camera comparison between the iPhone 12, 13 and 16 in 2026. Last year when I did it, the iPhone 16 was mostly the clear winner and the 13 actually seemed to lag behind the 12. Have things changed with some new photos taken with these cameras? Let's find out. We'll start with the most popular scenario, which are portrait shots. The first shot reveals exactly why upgrading to a newer iPhone is always worth it. While the colors are almost similar, I have to admit I like the output from the iPhone 16. The colors are punchier with a better contrast, black levels, shadows, and an accurate skin tone. The 12 and 13 just feel slightly off with less than ideal contrast. Also, the 12 and 13 require the user to be closer to the subject for a portrait shot, while the 16 is more forgiving in that aspect. The 16 also does a way better job with edge detection around my face. The 12 and 13 completely mess up the house behind me, whereas the 16 perfectly manages to separate me and the background. The next shot is somewhat similar in terms of color reproduction, contrast, details, and other features. The 16 still edges past the 12 and 13 with true-to-life skin tone and better contrast. But if you notice closely, you can also see that the 16 is producing an ever so slightly yellowish tint on the jacket, while the 12 and 13 do appear to be true black. As for edge detection, the 12 and 13 do miss around the face once again, while the 16 does appear to be perfect. Also, with the 16, don't forget you have the additional option of taking 2x portrait shots, which I love. The 2x focal lens provides you a fresh new look to the portrait, allowing you to take closer shots with great accuracy. If you have an iPhone 14 or older, trust me, you are missing out on the 2x zoom. Rest of the portrait shots do seem to follow a similar trend. In some shots, the 13 has that annoying effect where it makes my skin tone too bright for my liking. Aside from that, the 12 and 13 do seem to produce decent results for phones that are over 4 years old. There are some shots where the photos are so identical that you can't really find any differences. For example, this shot where the output is basically the exact same. In other shots, I have noticed the 12 produces a slightly cooler tone, while the 13 and 16 do lean towards a warmer tone. Keeping all that in mind, I will have to give it to the iPhone 16 for producing better portraits. Not only are the results more accurate in terms of contrast, color reproduction, and skin tone, but also more detailed in real-life comparisons. The 48 megapixel sensor does really help take quality portraits. Also, the option of taking 2x portraits is a big advantage over the 12 and 13. Non-portrait shots are not that different from portraits. I have noticed the ultrawide of the 13 producing a brighter shot compared to the 12 and 16. But where the 12 and 13 lag behind in some of the shots is the dynamic range. If you notice closely, in some photos the sky is washed out while the 16 doesn't do that. Also, I do prefer the skin tone from the 16. And just like in the portrait shots, I also prefer the skin tone from the 16 in these non-portrait shots. Besides that, non-portrait shots are pretty much identical. Next up, we have the ultra-wide camera. Now all these phones have a similar 12 megapixel sensor. The only minor change is the aperture, where the 16 has a slightly larger f2.2 compared to the f2.4 of the other two. That said, the results are almost identical. In fact, so much so that if I remove the naming convention of these iPhones here and shuffle the shots, you wouldn't be able to guess which shot was taken by which iPhone. With plenty of light, the output is similar in terms of contrast, dynamic range, color reproduction, and sharpness. We'll see soon enough if low light has similar results or not, but in daytime shots, either of these iPhones works great. Next up are the shots from the main lens. The iPhone 16 has a 48 megapixel sensor which can produce high quality results with 24 megapixel resolution photos. That said, you might take a look at these photos here and think there's nothing too different about them. I mean, at first glance, color reproduction, contrast, dynamic range, and other things do seem to be quite similar. But keep in mind, you are looking at these photos on YouTube after being processed, compressed, and most likely on smaller screens. In real life, side by side, the photos produced by the 16 are certainly more detailed and sharp. That said, when uploading on social media, you won't notice that much of a difference. Now with a larger sensor, the 16 does produce a more pronounced blur effect when taking a close-up shot, such as the shot of these Nothing 3 earbuds. Now just like camera sensors, earbuds are an important part of our day-to-day experience. The Nothing 3 are some of the best looking and innovative earbuds released this year. With a transparent design and a fresh take on using the case as a mic, these are phenomenal. The case is made of recycled aluminum and goes well with Nothing's transparent design language, which is certainly the most unique in the market right now. The earbuds themselves sound amazing and the adaptive noise cancellation works great and certainly helps in suppressing unwanted sounds. But what I've loved most is the Super Mic, which is a pair of dual mics built into the case itself. There's a talk button on the case which you can press and hold to activate the Super Mic and record a quick message, or double tap for a longer conversation. So this is how it sounds when your voice is received through the earbuds, and this is the isolated, crisp, clear sound coming straight out of the Super Mic. Let me know what you guys think. Personally, I love it and I think it's an out-of-the-box thinking and I'm excited for where it goes next. And for a limited time, you can get $30 off on the Nothing site. Click the link in my bio to get yourself a new pair of Nothing earbuds. Thanks to Nothing for sponsoring this video. Now back to the camera comparison with some 2x shots. Another interesting comparison I wanted to do was with the zoom capabilities of these phones. While the 16 can do a 10x zoom, the 12 and 13 are limited to just 5x. And as discussed earlier, the 16 can take 2x shots by cropping in on that 48 megapixel main sensor. Telephoto shots are where the 16 shines. While the 2x zoom looks pretty similar on all phones, the 16 is a tiny bit sharper, especially when looking at the photos side by side in real world. Also, the 2x just being a toggle away is super convenient. Moving on to some selfie shots. While each of these iPhones have the same 12 megapixel sensor just like the ultrawide, here the 16 once again has a slightly wider aperture. Now similar to the shots we have looked at, I do find the skin tone of the 16 more accurate. The 12 and 13 do tend to mess up my skin tone and make it appear wider than it actually is. That's especially true in portrait selfies. In regular non-portrait selfies, the shots aren't that far apart. Still, the output is decent. In the final category, we have the nighttime photos. Now the ultrawide shots are pretty much similar, but I did notice the 16 producing slightly sharper images, especially around the corners. The 12 and 13 do look slightly soft and out of focus. The same is true with the 1x lens as well. The 16 also takes less time to take the shot and also produces a sharper looking image due to that 48 megapixel sensor. Now the front camera having a larger aperture means more light and better results. The 13 here straight up use the flash and both the 12 and 13 have a very soft image. Finally, we have some video samples. One reason I love using an iPhone is the ease of recording the video and the quality of the results produced. The video features offered by these iPhones are quite similar and nothing exceptional. Even then, with enough light, the results are great. The 13 and 16 produce slightly more stable footage due to the sensor shift OIS. The 16 also produces sharper results with a larger 48 megapixel sensor. In other aspects such as dynamic range, color accuracy, contrast, detail, and shadows, all these iPhones are great. In low light, the 16 is certainly better than the 12 and 13, and that's due to obvious reasons. The 16 has a larger sensor with a wider aperture letting in more light. The output from the 12 and 13 isn't that great with shaky footage and less than ideal sharpness. Also, don't forget the 12 doesn't offer cinematic video while the 13 only does 1080p and the 16 does 4K. And that's the camera comparison between the 12, 13 and 16. It is clear that the 16 is a step up over these older iPhones, but not by a lot. The 48 megapixel main lens and the 2x optical zoom are the biggest advantages of the 16. Personally, I wouldn't recommend getting the iPhone 16 in 2026, but that's a topic for another video for which you guys will have to subscribe to the channel. And that's it for this video guys. Let me know if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer in the comments. Subscribe and I'll catch you all soon in the next one.